First, let me start. Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay, good morning. Today we're going to start on Samach Aleph, 61a. There's a Mishnah. We'll start in the Mishnah. The whole day today we're going to be busy with Tenufa, the waving. The Quakers. I don't know if if that has anything to do with the Quakers. I think that has to do with is that the Quakers, the with waving? Okay. Says like this, that we have a new Mishnah. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. This chus of our learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. So the last Mishnah we were talking about, there's four possibilities. Hagasha without Tenufa, Tenufa and Hagasha, Tenufa without Hagasha, and then no Tenufa, no Hagasha. So last Mishnah we spoke about the first category, was the Hagasha without Tenufa. Now we're going to talk about both Tenufa and Hagasha, and the next two possibilities. I'm sorry. Here first we're starting with Tenufa without Hagasha. Okay. What requires Tenufa means waving, and Hagasha means bringing close to the corner of the altar, the southwest corner. So the following only need to be waved, but not drawn close. What are they? Like Shemen Shel Mitzaira v'Ashamai. The Mitzaira has to bring a jug of oil, and he also brings an asham on this 8th day of purification. So those are waved. Both of them are waved. The oil and the sacrifice. And but they don't have to be brought close to the altar. Bikurim kedibur Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov. And Bikurim is also waved according to Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov. We're going to see that there's actually another opinion or other opinions that hold that Bikurim has to be waved, but we choose Rebbe Elazar ben Yaakov to say it follows according to him for a specific reason. Ve'emurei shalmei yachid b'chazav v'sheik shalahem. The inner organs, which means the fats and the inner organs of a private shlamim, a peace offering. Yeah? Those fats are waved together with, there's also the chazav v'sheik. Chazav v'sheik is the chest and the leg, the foreleg. That is those are the two parts of the shlamim sacrifice which are given to the kohen. It's also waved. The fats are put on the altar. Chazav v'sheik is given to the kohenim. The rest of the animal the Jewish people eat, right? The owner and his friends eat. Fats go to the altar. Chazav v'sheik go to the kohen. The rest of the animal they eat. The fats and the chazav v'sheik, the chest and the thigh or the leg, that is all. But those three are waved. Echad anashim ve'echad nashim. Doesn't matter who's the owner of the karban, whether it's a man or whether it's a woman. That's the owner of the karban. The Yisrael v'lei ba'acherim, by Jewish people and not by others. Now, the way the Gemara is going to explain this is that first going to ask, you just contradicted yourself. You said whether it's men or whether it's women, and then you say only by the Jewish men, but not by others. Others we always meant in the previous Mishnayos, not by non-Jews and not by women. Gemara is going to explain it. What we mean to say is that it doesn't matter who the owner of the karban is. There is a waving that's done, but it's not done by the women, it's done by the men. Right? The women don't go in to do the waving. There's a man that will do the waving on behalf of the woman. Shtei alechem ushnei kivsei atzeres. I didn't say it. You said that it could be. So far, it seems like anyone. the 2 loaves of bread of Shavuos and the 2 lambs that come together with it, right? So all of these are going to require tenufa, which means the waving, but they don't have to be brought close to the corner of the altar. How do you do the tenufa on the 2 loaves of bread and on the 2 lambs? You put the bread on top of the lambs, right? You have 2 loaves of bread, you could have made a sandwich, right? But no, you put it on just on the top. It's a one-sided sandwich with the bread on the top. They didn't have any of that stuff. That's not a traditional diet. Okay, so what do? Put the 2 loaves of bread on top of the sheet. Put your 2 hands underneath the sheet. Moilech sounds like outward. Mevi is inward. Maila umayrid. So you don't do to all the sides like you do to a lulav, but you do forwards, backwards, up and down. You're missing right and left. So far, that's what it seems. Hunaf would mean forward and backward, and huram would be the up and down. Tnufa haisa b'mizrach. The waving was done on the eastern side. Now, this means that it could even be done on the eastern side, not that it had to be done on the eastern side, because the eastern side is closer to the front door. The Kodesh Kadashim was on the west. The east side is the entranceway. We're saying it could even be done on the east. It doesn't need to be right in front of the Heichal like other things. But Hagasha b'mayrav. But the bringing close to the altar was on the other side, the opposite side of the altar. So one is on the entrance side of the altar, the waving could even be there, and the bringing close is you have to walk around the ramp, and you have to go to the other side to do the Hagasha. That was on the southwest corner, southwest. Okay. To do face kedmis Hagashas, you always do the waving before the bringing close. Okay, the next category is minchas ha'omer, minchas k'nois, tu'unes hagashu tenufa. Next category, you do both. You do the waving and you also do the bringing close to the altar, tenufa and hagasha. And what goes into this category? The minchas ha'omer, the barley offering, which is brought on the second day of Shavuos, and also the saita offering. Both barleys. You do tenufa and hagasha. And then the last category is lechem apanum minchas nesachem ein tunis lei tenufa lei hagasha v'lei tenufa. The showbread that's brought on every Shabbos, and also the minchas nesachem, which is the libations that come along with another sacrifice. Those don't have any waving and they don't have any bringing close to the altar. Reb Shimon comes in to give us this interesting way of dividing, of combining all these halachas together. He says, Shleisha minim te'unes shalish mitzvahs. Not matzahs, mitzvahs. There's 3 types of sacrifices which have 3 types of mitzvahs that we can move them along and take 2 for each of these 3 categories. 2 out of the 3, not the same ones. So it says, Shtayim b'chalachas v'achas, 2 for each one. But they don't have the 3rd one. So each one of these mitzvahs walks into the room and gets to take, each one of these types walks into the room and takes 2 mitzvahs. And they can't take the 3rd one. So let's see how it works. Ve'elohein, what are the 3 types? Zivchei shalmi yachid, zivchei shalmi tzibur, asher mitzayra. A private person's peace offering, that's called the shlamim. The community peace offering, which that's brought on Shavuos, Shalmi Tzibur. Those are the lambs that come with the bread. And then there's the Asham Mitzayra, the guilt offering that the leper brings in his purification process on this 8th day. So what are the mitzvahs that these 3 take? They say, Zivchi Shalmi Yachid Tunesmicha Chayim Utnufa Shchutin. Ve'imem Tunufa Chayim. So the three options here are this. There's smicha, there's waving while it's alive, and waving after the shechita. So when we talk about the first one, we say Zivchei Shalmi Yachid, the private person's peace offering, he gets two. And the two that he gets is smicha. The owner leans his hand on the head of the animal. And also tnufa shchutin. You do tnufa after the shchita because you're doing it on the fats and on the chest and on the leg. Obviously, it's shechted, or else you don't have the fats available if the animal's still alive, right? Let's finish the next one. But you don't wave it while it's alive, only after shechted. When it comes to the community, shlamim, that was on Shavuos, the two lambs, tunin tenufa chayim ushchutim. You only wave it, but you don't do smicha. When do you wave it? Before it's slaughtered, you wave it after it's slaughtered. Twice. Those are two of the mitzvahs. Asher Metzayra ton smicha the tenufa chay. Ve'im by tenufa shachat. Asher Metzayra has smicha and tenufa while it's alive, but it doesn't have tenufa. It doesn't have the waving after it's shachat. Okay, that's the way Reb Shimon Bar Yochai organizes these halachas.
Waving is only in four directions.
So far, that's what we learned. Yeah. We'll see in the Gemara. Maybe it is six, but the way it listed it, it's only four. Taner Rabbanan. Okay, we're just going to go through the sources of the tenufa for each one. If there's tenufa, if there's agasha, and all of this stuff. So the first thing we learned was the oil for the Metzayra, together with, remember the oil, he had to sprinkle the oil, he also had to put it on his thumbs, and also the guilt offering of the Metzayra. It says, V'hikriv Oisai la'asham, he'll offer it as an asham, ve'esleig hashamen, and also the jug of oil, ve'hinef aisam tenufa, and he'll wave them a waving. Malami, this teaches us shetu'unim tenufa ke'echad, means that you have to wave them together, right? You do the waving together. I guess the kohen puts his hands together with the jug of oil in his hand. He waves the asham. Minayin, what did we say? The asham, how was it waved? It was waved while it was alive, not after it's shechted. How do you know that if you wave them independently, separately, that you're still yaitz the mitzvah? So the pasuk says, it's interesting, because you yaitz even if you didn't wave it at all. But how do you know that you yaitz the mitzvah of waving? That's what the Gemara is asking. How do you know the mitzvah of waving when you did it? It says that you bring it as an asham and you wave it. It means that each one has its own mitzvah. See, before we said vehinif aisam, put them together. Vehinif aisam, you wave them, put the two in the same category. Now it says vehinif vehikr vaisai, you offer it, and vehinif, and you wave it. That means that each one has it's still a mitzvah, even if it's done independently. So yachol yanef yachser v'yanef. Maybe you have to wave it twice. Maybe first together and then you do it independently. Tamalemer tenufa, v'loi tenufais. It says you wave it. It doesn't say you wave it. There's no plural wave. Waves it. There's no. We don't have a plural word for it. In Hebrew, tenufa versus tenufais. A single waving as opposed to a plural waving. It doesn't say that you plural wave it. It says you single wave it. Lefnei Hashem. Now the pasuk continues. It says in front of Hashem. What does that mean? B'mizrach, on the eastern side. Now that's surprising because usually Lefnei Hashem means on the west side because that's closer to the entrance of the Heichal. But here we mean Lefnei Hashem even on the east side. It's still considered Lefnei Hashem. Big chiddush. Umar says, "V'amar Lefnei Hashem Yachol b'mayra," but it says Lefnei Hashem by the mincha. And it says that maybe you have to wave it on the west side. So this was another source by the Karban Mincha it says that you wave it. Maybe you could wave over there. By the mincha, it says El Pnei HaMizbeach Lifnei Hashem. It says both terms. The face of the Mizbeach, which is the south side, Lifnei Hashem is the west side. So when it says both of these terms, the Gemara's the Bryces learning out. It says Lifnei Hashem. Well, that means it has to be on the west side. The problem is it says El Pnei HaMizbeach, and it has to be on the south side. So the Gemara answers, what do? You bring it to the southwest corner, right? That was the. So whatever the case is, here you tell me that it's on the east side. Amri, they said like this: Hani mili mincha. When we were talking about the carbon mincha, the ikri chatas, which is also called the chatas, tuna yisoid, and the chatas requires the hagasha, the bringing close to the corner of the mizbeach, which is the foundation of the mizbeach. So Karen, dreimas mizrachas yisoid. If they're going to do it on the eastern side, then you don't have the foundation, because if you remember, the foundation of the mizbeach, the yisoid, went around the southwest, northwest, northeast, but the southeast was missing. So where do you do it? You have to go to the southwest, Aval Hacha. But over here, where you don't need to bring it close to the corner, so Lifnei Hashem Krinin Bay, even on the east side, is still considered Lifnei Hashem. Sorry. The difference is if it bends or if it's round. Here, does it turn? Does the Yesod turn to the Mizrach, or does it just protrude? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Hillel was showing me in the Koran Gemara that there's two opinions on how the foundation comes around the Mizbeach. Does it, when it gets to the south side, does it turn to the south a little bit, or does it just protrude? And when it gets to the west, when it gets to the west side, does it turn on the? When it gets to the east, does it turn? It's on the northeast. Does it turn to run down the east towards the south, or does it just protrude? In the pictures in the Koran, they have two pictures of it. Okay, now we said about Bikurim Kediv Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Bikurim also requires waving. According to Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, the Tanya was taught in the Brisa V'Lokach HaKayin. Over there it says that the Kayin takes the basket from his hand, V'Hinicha, and he places it. But it says V'Lokach HaKayin, the Kayin takes it. What does he do when he takes it? Liman ala Bikurim Shatunim Tenufa. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, Divri Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, he holds that the Kayin taking it tells me that he has to do the Tenufa. My time with Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. What's the reason for Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov? It says that he uses a Gzeir Shavah. So it says, Gamar Yad Mishlamim. He uses a Gzeir Shavah from Shlamim. You know, by the Shlamim you have to wave. And so therefore, over there it says the word Yad. And by the Bikurim it also says the word Yad. So therefore, the Kain takes a basket from his hands. And over there it says that his hands bring it. So over there, just like over there, it says his hands bring it. Makan. On Samakala from the Bez. Makan Akayan. Just like over there, it's the Kayan that does the waving. But just like here, not there. Just like over here, it's the Kayan. Aflahalan, also by the Shlamim, Kayan. The Kayan does the waving. Malahalan Bailim. But just like over there, it's the owner as well. So Afkan Bailim, also by the Bikurim, it should also be the owner. Kate says, how do we do this? What happens is the owner holds it, and the Kayan puts his hand underneath, and together they move it back and forth, and then up and down. The woman waved it. I don't know. But I think the Gemara is going to say that she doesn't wave it. right? No, they don't do smicha. A woman doesn't do smicha, and a woman doesn't do on a regular shlamim. She doesn't do the waving. It's a man that does the waving. What happens by the saita? Does she wave it also? I'm not sure. Maybe. Okay, so now the Gemara asks, "V'lei manami kediv Rabbi Yehuda." Let's say, why do you say that it's Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov that says that the bikurim are waived? Rabbi Yehuda also said bikurim are waived. The Tanya was taught in a brayso. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer v'hinachtai. Rabbi Yehuda he learns from the word v'hinachtai, which means you place it down. He says that placing it down, zu tenufa. This means waving it. Okay. How do you know it means waving it? Maybe it just means placing it down. So I have another pasuk that says you place it. So placing it is already said. So then why does it have to say again that he places it? It must be teaching me that he waves it. So whatever the case is, Rabbi Yehuda holds that bikurim need waving. Why do you tell me bikurim need waving only according to this individual opinion of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, when it's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda as well? Amaravas, Rav explains, Hoyel upasach b'yakasef tchila. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov learns it from an earlier word in the pasuk. He learns it from v'lakach hakayan atenem miyadecha. He learns it from the first part of the pasuk. The Rabbi Yehuda learns it from the v'hinachte, which is the end of the pasuk. Or a pasuk later. No, it's better to say Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov because he was a powerful person. I think that means in halacha. He was a big chacham. Rashi says Mishnas Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov kavanaki. The teachings of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov are small, but they're pure. They're naki, perfect. There's two Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. Yeah. Let's see what he says.
Well, you just mentioned zeros.
He says here that the Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Kavanaki is referring. There was two Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakovs. He's referring to the first one. Rabbi Aaron Hyman in Todas Tanoim V'Amiroim, he says that the Gemara is playing on the term. It says Mishnah Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Kavanaki is referring to both Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakovs. That's how he puts it. Okay, it's more creative. No, there were different generations. But when the Gemara says, it was just telling you a way that you can remember that Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov is even both of them is perfect. Emuri Shalmei Yachid Chaz v'Sheik Shalahem. We learned in the Mishnah that the inner organs of the shlam. Excuse me. Together with the excuse me. Together with the chest and the thigh and the leg. Whether the men and the women, both of them have to do the waving, except that it's not done by the others. Now we have to see what this means. Maika Amar, what does the Mishnah mean? It says that it's the men, the women, with Israel, but not with others. Gemara explains Amar Rav Yehuda. This is a different Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda Bar Yecheskel, the Amira. He says, Hachi Kamar, this is what it's saying. Karbanan tan tenufa. Whether it's a man or a woman that's bringing a sacrifice, you have their sacrifice requires tenufa. Tenufa atzma, who does the tenufa? That's Yisrael avaleib de nashim. That's a Jewish man does the tenufa, but not the women. They don't do the tenufa. Okay. Tanu Rabbanan. Learned in the brayso, the pasuk says that speak to the Jewish people, telling them that someone that brings a peace offering does it, he waves it. It says Bnei Yisrael menifin vein ha'ivdikav menifin. And it says speak to the Jewish people, That means that the Jewish people do the waving, not non-Jews. Bnei Yisrael menifim ve'ein anoshim menifas. I bet he has a different version. It says, instead of like the Kachavim, I bet he'll say, let's see. Ve'ein agoyim, not non-Jews. Instead of idolaters, he said non-Jews. Gentiles, they don't wave their sacrifice. Right. He's more courageous. So, but the women they don't do the waving. Amar Rabbi Yosi says, Matzino, shechalak hakasav in carbon Yisrael, carbon over the kechavim, or carbon nashim besmicha. Says we find that there's a difference between a carbon that's brought by a Jew to a carbon that's brought by a non-Jew and to a carbon that's brought by a woman regarding smicha. It says, speak to the Jewish people, v'samach, and that you'll do smicha. Yachal nechalak b'tenufa. Maybe the same thing should be a difference between regarding the waving. Maybe the women their carbon shouldn't have to be waved. It says lie. You don't say that. Mali chalak b'smicha shasmicha b'bailam nachlik b'tenufa. Shatnufa b'kayanim. Oh, nachlik b'tenufa shatnufa b'kayanim. It says, how could you? What's the comparison? Smicha is done by the owner, but tenufa, but the waving is done by the kayanim. So why should there be a difference between a man's carbon or a woman's carbon if the kayanim do the tenufa? It says imkain matam alem bnei Yisrael. So why does it say the Jewish people? It says bnei Yisrael minifin ina ibn cham minifin bnei Yisrael minifin ina nashim minifis. I'm sorry. Yeah, the school at Beis Yaakov is called because of Beis Yaakov. It says it's women, but whenever it says Adam, Adam could mean a man or a woman, right? It could also mean a non-Jew. Ish means specifically a man. So it says Ish, we'll say Isha Yisha. Nefesh would mean anyone, right? So there's different terms that it could use. Bnei Yisrael over here is referring to the men. That's what it seems. It says the men, they do the waving, but not the women. It turns out that the carbon of a non-Jew, the carbon of a Jew, whether man or woman, requires waving. The only thing is, it's not waved by them. It's waved by they appoint someone else to wave it. Yeah. Okay. It says we had one term over here that nachlik tenufa b'kayanim. They could wave the kayanim could wave it. However, it also says bnei Yisrael menifin, ve'ein anashim menifin. So bnei Yisrael means not the kayanim. So Rashi says they can make the kayanim shliach. Ma tamalei bnei Yisrael. Bnei Yisrael v'nehem natzon. Oh, elakayin. Rashi says elakayin. Let me just see if there's a note on that Rashi. Maybe it's the kayin. I'm not sure. Okay. Tanya Idach. Another brisa. It says, speak to the Jewish people. It says Bnei Yisrael, that they're going to wave. Ainli ala Bnei Yisrael. I would only know that the Jewish people wave. Gerim avadim meshacharim minayin. The meaning of Jewish descent. Bnei Yisrael, right? The children of Israel. How do you know that also converts and also slaves that were set free, which also are converts? How do you know that they also waved? Whoever brings it. Maybe it's not referring to the one who brings it. Maybe it means the kayan that offers it, not the owner. When it says his hands bring it, so that means that the owner for sure does it. So how does it work if the kayan does it and the owner does it? So The way we explained it before is kayin meiniach yad v'tachas di'abaylam mein if they actually do it together. So maybe that's the pshat going back before, that they can appoint someone to bring their carbon together with the kayin, and they bring it together. So yeah, the kayin waves it, but also together with it, someone that they appoint. Maybe. Maybe. Let's see if they say something. Maybe not. Maybe it's by the women. Maybe it's done without without the man, without an Israelite man. Maybe it's just the kayin that does the whole waving. I don't have enough notes on my thing to go through that. Which note were you looking at?
20.
The requirement of waving by a kain is derived from the term the offerer, right? A mavi, makriv rather. While that of the owner is derived from the phrase "his hands shall bring it." Though the Bryce has established that the word hamakriv, the offerer, is referred to the owner, not the kain. Apparently, Rashi understands that, nevertheless, on the basic level, simple meaning of the word hamakriv indeed refers to the kain. However, since the kain's requirement is derived from the gzer of hands, as we were seen above, the word hamakriv is not actually needed to teach us the law of tenufa regarding the kain. Thus, the hamakriv is available for exegetical purposes to teach that the convert also performs tenufa. That's not a problem.
No.
That's not the. I'm just asking if there's. I know the kain is going to waive the women's in the Goyim's carbon shlamim, but are they going to have an appointed Israelite on their behalf to wave it together with the kain as if there was an owner, or maybe it's just the kain does it alone? Okay, Keita Daise, how does he do it? How does the tenufa done? Miniach imurim. Okay, this is just the way that it's set up. Miniach imurim al pisas hayad b'chasav v'sheik aleim. You take the imurim are the inner organs, the fats. You put that on the palm of the hand. Then you put the chasav v'sheik, the chest, and then the leg on top of the fats. Whenever there's bread, you put the bread on top. You only get the top piece of the sandwich. Heicha, where do you have bread? Amarav Papa b'miluim. That's by the carbon miluim. Over there you had misal hamatzos b'yasem ala chalavim al shaykayamin. Otherwise, you have bread, but that's when the animal's whole. How do you have where the animal is shechted and you have only the fats and the chazav b'shoik, the chest and the thigh, and together with bread? That's only by the miluim, by the inaugural sacrifice. My timer. What's the reason that you put the chest and the thigh on top of the fats? It says in the pasuk that you put it on top. It says al ishech put the chest, the chest of the thigh of elevation, the chest of waving. You put it on top of the fats that are going on the fire. Problem is vaksiv esachelev ala chaza yavienu. Says you put the fats on the chest. And it says the chest on the fats. So which one is it? Amar Abaya, Abaya explains like this. There's three people involved. He's going to say, who demaisile, the person that's bringing it. Kayin, mi basement v'chayim baramile. When you have let's take a look over here. When the kayin brings it from after it's slaughtered. He puts the chest on the fats. Who the Maisilite. That pasuk is referring to the one that brings it. Who the Maisilite Kayan, he basically he puts the chest on the fats. Puts the fats on the chest. What do you do with that? Who the Yarvle. That's when he gives it to the Kayan that's going to wave it. Who the Yarvle That's when he gives it over to the other person. But Kamash Malan is coming to teach us to be in Shleisha Kayanim. Turns out that there's 3 Kayanim. Why do you do this? Mishum Diksiv Brevam Hadras Mela. I guess what they were doing is that they would flip it over when it passed from Kayan's hands to Kayan's hand, and then the one Kayan had it with the chest, with the fats on the bottom, and he flipped it over, and now the chest is on the bottom and the fats are on top, and then he flips it over, and so there's 3 Kayanim that are doing. Why do you need 3 Kayanim? It says Brevam Hadras Melech. The more people that are involved, there's more glory for the king.
Even with 3 people, this is heavy stuff to be moving around.
So it depends on the size. We're not dealing so far with a bull or something, or a cow. So far, we're dealing with
sheep and goats.
By the live animals, definitely it was just lambs in the first year. But those are small animals. Those are like a chihuahua.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's go a little further. The 2 loaves of bread and the 2 sheep. So we said that they were waved together, right? It says that we put the bread. Where do we put the bread on? It says you put the bread on top, but that was after it was shechted. What happens over here when the animals are still alive in this way? It says It says that the kohen waves them on the bread of bikurim, which is the shtei alechem. Maybe you put the lambs on top of the bread, like a pizza. You put the sauce and the cheese on top. And you put the 2 lambs on top of the bread. So Talmud Laimar al shnei kvasim. It says no, you put it on top of the lambs. Maybe it means you put the bread on top of the lambs. Talmud Laimar al lechem bikurim. It says no, the opposite. It's put on top of the bread. So nishkal akasav, nishtakel akasav. There's the verse is contradictory. What does nishtakel mean? It means like parallel. No, the verse is evenly balanced because you have 2 contradictory verses. So it says, I don't know if the bread is on top of the lambs, if the lambs are on top of the bread. Where do we find in all other places that the bread is on top? So Afkan lechem lamaila. So too over here we'll put the bread on top. Okay. Eicha, where do you find that the bread's on top? Amar Papa ben Miluim. The Gemara we just had on the top of the page. We said that after it's slaughtered, you have the bread that goes on top. Rabbi Yosi ben Hamashulam, I have a comment in my Gemara that says that the name is probably just Meshulam. You don't have definite articles in front of first names. So instead of Hamashulam, it's probably just supposed to be Ben Meshulam. That's the quote from the Ibitz. Rabbi Yosi ben, that's Rabbi Yaakov Emden. He says, Kvasim Lamaila. Says the sheep are on top of the bread. Mani Makayim al Shnei Kvasim. What do I mean when I say, what does the pasuk mean? How do I fulfill the verse? It says on the sheep. That means the bread is on top. You're telling me the sheep are on top. What do we do with the pasuk that says the bread is on top? It says Lahitzi Shiva. And it says al Shnei Kvasim. It's coming to exclude that it's not coming to tell me that the bread goes on top of the sheep. It's going to tell me that it's together with the lambs, not together with the seven other lambs. It's just together with the 2 lambs. Remember, we had 2 groups of 7, but it's not the 7 doesn't come along with the waving. Anina ben Chachinaya miniach shtei alechem ben yarkaisehem shel kvasim umenif. You do is you put the lamb on the side, and then the lamb has a leg that's on the top, and it has a leg on the bottom. So you put the bread in between the legs, and then you have part of it's underneath and part is on top. So it's on, and it's also on, right? And this is on this, and this is on that because it's in the middle. So it becomes a bread sandwich where the bread is in the middle, and the lamb is on the top and on the bottom. Amar Rebbe. Rebbe says, you wouldn't do that for a king of flesh and blood. You wouldn't put the bread in that, like on the underside of the animal. You're going to do that for Hashem. If you put it on the side, you wave it together side by side. It says, what about on top? You told me on top. You made a whole big deal about on al. Al means on top. Amalei Rav Chizda l'Rav Hamnuna. Amalei Rav Hamnuna l'Rav Chizda. There was a conversation. It's two different versions of which way it went. But Rebbe l'Taimei. Rebbe follows his understanding. The Amar al b'samach. Al doesn't mean on top. Al means next to. Tanya, it says in the Brisa, quote the pasuk, "Nasata al marechas l'vay nazaka." You're going to put on the fire, the frankincense, pure frankincense. Rabbi Yomer al b'samach. Rabbi says you put it next to it. Ata Yomer al b'samach. Yeinei ala al mamash maybe it's on top. Shvoimer v'sakaisa ala aron esaprechas. When it says that you will cover over the aron with the curtain, and we know that it doesn't mean that you cover over the aron because the curtain went vertical. Over it would be horizontal. Vertical. So we can say that al means you put it next to it. Put the curtain next to the aron would block the two rooms. Okay, Melech umevi Maila Myrid. This is what we were discussing before. What's the way? It says that you bring it forward and backward, up and down. You bring it forward and backward. That means from north to south, and also from east to west. I don't know if you know that. Rashi says in all the directions. Maybe. So I guess maybe what it means is, maybe Mailach means one way, forwards, backwards, and maybe means side by side. Maybe. To the one that the winds are his. Maybe means the sides are his. Milo Myrid, you bring it up and down. Where this represents that we're doing this for the one who the heaven and earth is his. That's the way it was taught in Eretz Yisrael. Marav Masnihachi is the new piece. The following is the way it was taught in Eretz Yisrael. Amarav Chama Baruch, Amarav Yesi Barchanina, Melechum Mevi, De Latzeruch Reis. It's not that it's representing to Hashem who owns the world, but it's functioning to stop the bad winds that could come from the four corners, from the four sides. Milo Myrid, and you bring it up and down to put a stop onto the dew, which could cause the things to rot, bad dew. Amar Rabbi Yesi bar Rav Avin, so Yisimer Shiari Mitzvah Machmin Asapranis. Here we see that just the remnants of a mitzvah, which this is like a auxiliary mitzvahs, they can also stop punishments. The tenufa shiari mitzvah, because the tenufa is just the remnant of a mitzvah or auxiliary mitzvah. Look at what it does. It stops the bad winds and the bad dew. Amar Rabba v'chein lulav. Rabba says the same thing as with the lulav, the way you bring it forwards and backwards and east to west. Ravacha bar Yaakov mamtilei u'maislei. Ravacha bar Yaakov, he would bring it one way and then another way, umachvei hachi, and then he would point it. Amar gira beina desitne. He would say this is an arrow in the eye of the Satan. Valav milsi. And then the Gemara says, don't do that. Don't try that at home. Shem dasi le'eskaribe, because you're gonna chepper. You're gonna taunt the Satan. He's gonna want to start up with you. So just ignore him. Don't. Okay. Tana Rabbanan, started in the rice, Zivchi Shalmi Tzibur, Tunin Tenufa. The lambs of Shavuos required to be waved. La'achar Shchita, after the shechted, Utenufasan Kamei Shehem, but they're waved whole, entirely intact. You see, we were saying after Shchita by the others, by the regular Shlamim, it's just the Chazav Shaykh. It's just the chest and the thigh together with the fats. Here, this is a community shlamim. We're saying that it's waved after shchita, but while it's intact, the entire animal is intact. Chachamim say no, it's just the chazav v'shaykh, just like a private shlamim. So, but my kamiflagi, what's the machlekes of it? I'm Rav Chisda, Rav Hamnuna, Rav Chisda. We have the same issue. Who said to who? Rav Hamnuna and Rav Chisda. B'dun minay amina. The question is, when we learn from something else, do we have to take a full package, or can we just take one item that we're learning and then we'll apply it to a new scenario? So that's what they're arguing about. Rabbanan hold that when you learn something from somewhere else, you have to take the full package. Just like when it comes to a private offering, you do the waving after it's slaughtered. Also by the community shlamim, which is on Shavuos, you do the waving after shchita. Umina, and where did we get it from? We got it from the private offering. Ma hasim b'chazav v'shaykh. Just like over there, it was specifically the chest and the thigh. Avhacha nami b'chazav v'shaykh. So too here, it's also the chest and the thigh. Rabbi argues with the chachamim, and he says, I only have to take whatever I want to take. I can leave back and apply it to the new scenario. Just like the community, the private offering is the tenufa is after the shechting, which means just the after the animal shechted. So too, by the shlamim of the tzibur on Shavuos, it's after the shchita. But now I'm going to apply it to the new scenario of Hasam Ud Chazav V'Shoik. Over there, by the private one, individual one, over there it's only the chest and the thigh. Aval Hacha K'may B'Chayim, because I'm going to compare it, because this was waved already while it was alive. Now it's waved after the Shechita. So let's compare it to the way it was done while it was alive. While it was alive, of course, it's whole. After the Shechita, we also do it whole. That's Rebbe's opinion. K'may Shein. Rav Papa Amar, Papa says the Kuli Alma Dun Mina. Everyone holds that it's a package, a full package. I'm a Rebbe, but we're going to look at Rebbe a little different. It says Ki Hasam, just like over there. Ma Hasam Davar Shematana Lekayan Afhacha Davar Shematana Lekayan. Just like over there, I waved. I don't look at just the chest and the thigh. Look at, you waved everything that goes to the kayan. So it's over here, you're going to wave everything that goes to the kayan, which is the entire animal. It says, like, how do you want to categorize the chest and the thigh? Do you want to categorize it just as chest and thigh? But do you want to categorize it as gift to the kayan? So if you categorize it as gift to the kayan, then when it comes to the shalmi tzibur, the whole thing was to the kayan. So then you wave it all together. Ravina Amar Kuli Alma Dun Mina V'Kabasra. Everyone holds that you apply it to the new scenario. By the time of the Rabbanans, why did the Rabbanan say that it's just chazav v'shaykh? It says Shal Mehem Ribuyahu, because by the pasuk by the Shalmei Yachid, it says their shlamim and their shlamims. So we know that there's an extra shlamim that's going to be another shlamim that's going to be waved like this. We say that that's referring to the Shalmi Tzibur. Maybe I can finish till the Mishnah. Let's see. Reb Shimon, remember Reb Shimon had his, he divided everything into three, and then you could take two out of the three for the three. There's three types which require three mitzvahs, but you only get two out of them. They don't get the third. Private shlamim, public shlamim, which is on Shavuos, and the guilt offering of the purification process of the mitzvah. So now we go to Zivchi Shalmi Yachid, the private offering of private shlamim, the peace offering. Tuna smicha chayim u'tenufa shchutin bein bem tenufa chayim. Smicha while it's alive. Tenufa, the waving is after it's shechted, which we said was the chazav v'shaykh, but it's not waved while it's alive. Zivchi Shalmi Tzibur, the public offering. Tenufa chayim u'shchutin. It's waived both while it's alive and after it's shechted. Got a machlekes if it's intact or not. Vein bem smicha, but there's no smicha. Asher mitzayra, the guilt offering on the mitzayra turn smicha tenufa chai, vein by tenufa shachad. Over here, it's only waived while it's alive. It's not waived after the shechita. That's by the mitzayra. The Gemara asks, we should waive the shalmi yachid while it's alive as from a kal v'chaimer. This is going to be that type of kal v'chaimer. Like if I can put my hand into my wallet and you, but if you can't put your hand into my wallet, but you can put your hand into your own wallet, so me that I can put my hand into my wallet, for sure I can put my hand into your wallet, right? So it says we'll do a kal v'chaimer. When it comes to the shalmi tzibur, you don't have smicha. You don't do smicha on you don't lean on the animal. But but you do have to wave it while it's alive. If the private shlamim does require smicha, in a din for sure it should be waived. It says it says no. It says oisam that only the shalmi tzibur is waived. We have an exclusion. The pasuk says them, and not the other one. It means the public one, not the private one, is waived, but while it's alive. Now we should make that the shalmi tzibur should require smicha. The private offering doesn't require tenufa alive, but nevertheless it requires smicha. If it requires waving while it's alive, for sure it should require smicha. The other one required smicha and it didn't have waving. Ravina Gemire Shtei Smichas B'Tzibur. We have a tradition that there's only two smichas on public offerings, and that's the Parhel and Davar Shel Tzibur in the Sar of Yom Kippur. There's only two smichas of a place. It's like a trivia question if you want. Okay, what about the guilt offering of a mitzayra? That should also require waving shachot while it's after the shechita, which we didn't say. We only said that it's a smicha and alive, waving. Mikal v'chaimer. When it comes to a private offering, you don't wave it while it's alive, but you have to wave it after the shechita. Sure, it should be waved after the shechita. It says it says that you wave it. What's it? It's coming to exclude only it and not the Asher Mitzayra. Tana Rabbanan. Let's say 5 people brought the same carbon all together as partners. Yeah, they chipped in. They brought a joint carbon. One person does the waving for all of them. And for a woman, it's the kayin that does the waving for her. Oh, so there we don't even have a designated person. It's just the kayin. Also, if someone sends his carbon from a distant place and he's not able to be there, so the kayin can wave as a shliach for him. Okay, we're up to Samach Gimel, the Mishnah on the top. Okay.
Thank you.
That was too black. That was the Sunday share. Okay.